We're talking late fall fishing. Man, we got some tackle talk. We got some tournament talk. This is going to be a great show. This is Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me.
What up, Jeff Riddle?
Me I'm your little buttercup.
Mike Hayer, how you doing?
Over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile.
Ken All's whiskey, what you say, buddy? Greggy Plank. What's up, Greg? Man, we got a great show for you guys tonight. Raymond Barton, how you doing, pal? Man, Dave Richardson, what do you say? Mark, how you doing? Chuck Wright, how you, Chuck?
Chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair and your beautiful smile. Your sense of humor makes it all worthwhile. Don't make me wait. It's not a funny game.
Man, oh man, we got a great show for you guys. Thanks so much for stopping in. My name's Mike Acord, for you guys that don't know. This is George Acord right over here. And behind the camera, back in action, is cameraman Nick.
How's it going, everybody?
Welcome back, Nick. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks, George.
Welcome back, Nick. How you doing, buddy?
Awesome.
Missed you last week.
Yeah. What do you want, George?
Some ears.
Need some sound?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean,
How's that?
Nice. Oh, it's so much better. Yeah? No. They're not working.
All right, hold on.
Uh-huh.
How's that? How's that?
Huh?
How's that?
Oh, that's great.
Is it working?
Yeah, is my mic working?
Yeah. Everybody can hear everybody, I think. Right?
All right.
All righty.
I guess that's why they do sound checks before big concerts.
We were here doing sound check. You weren't to be found. You weren't to be found. So how's everybody doing? Vince, how you doing, pal? Roland Barker. Troy Wink's in the house. How you doing, Troy? Thanks for letting us have Nick back. Appreciate that. Andy Garrett. Yeah, missed Nick last week. Andy missed you last week. So,
hey, thanks, Andy.
Yeah, we all missed you, Nick. So, we got a couple things we got to clean up. We got to do some house cleaning here.
Maintenance.
Last show, because it was just George and I, we didn't have cameraman Nick to keep it straight on the straight and narrow. I forgot to announce the winner of the drawing from our 2 shows ago. So, George is low. You're low on your thing there, George.
Low.
You just need to speak up a little more.
Okay.
And
I mean, I don't think my mic's working, but
I hear you perfectly.
it's all right.
Say something again.
Yo.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Tell you what, I'm glad that FedEx guy delivered that troll.
Oh, I got you, George.
He's back.
I muted him, Nick. I muted his ass.
That sounds like it was planned.
That was an unconscious mutation. I muted you, bro. No, you already got you.
Good.
Yeah. You're muted.
I was just getting a backup mic.
You were muted.
Nick.
I knew it. I have you muted. I'm sorry.
Never mute me.
All right. So where was I? So anyway, we forgot to announce the winner, but we did pull a winner for 2 shows ago. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was a giveaway, and we were giving away some stickers. Man, we have some Big Bite bait products here, a couple packs of those. We have some swim baits from Big Bite Bait. We have some little troopers in the power bait. This is all good stuff here, man. This is all quality stuff. We've got some goat toads for your top water frogging, and a couple other things. We got a big bladed jig in here from Z-Man, the big bladed chatterbait, and then we have, man, our favorite fisherman out there, Ish Monroe. We have one of his spinner baits in the gold shiner, which is, you know, that's a badass color right there. So there's a whole handful of stuff there. I mean, that's a ton of stuff. So we got this drawing, and Nick did the drawing. He collected all the names, and he did the drawing because he wasn't going to be here, and he sent it in and said, hey, here's the guy who won it, and I forgot to announce it. So the winner of this tackle pack is Dale Fogel. Dale Fogel, you're the winner of the tackle pack.
Congratulations, Dale.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations, buddy. And yeah, Dale Fogel. So we will
The crowd went wild.
crowd went wild. We will get with you, brother. And all you gotta do is well, Nick will get a hold of you somehow.
Yeah, I'll
And
reach out to you on
yeah,
Messenger.
and we'll get a shipping address, or you can stop in the shop here and we'll get it to you somehow. So but for tonight, we have a drawing that we're going to do for after this show, and we'll announce it the next show, which is going to be 2 weeks, Nick, because we're not going to be here next week. We can't work it in on Wednesday, and we can't work it in on Friday because we're going to be super busy here with the Black Friday sale. So next week is going to be a bye week for Tackle Shop Live. Sorry about that. You guys are going to want to be with your families anyway, and they'll probably yell at you if you take like right in the middle of a conversation. Oh, 7 o'clock, I got to go type of thing. We didn't want to get anybody in trouble. You know, got to keep the wife happy wife, happy life. You know how that is. And, you know, it's family time. So you're going to spend some time with your family. And same here on my end.
Well, usually what happens on a big holiday weekend like that is, you know, people get started early. About 36 hours into it, they're ready for a break from the family. I mean,
that's true.
that whole concept goes out the window.
So for the drawing this week, we're going to give away some great stuff. And, you know, our good friends at Reaction Innovation sent us a new color, Skinny Dipper. And the color is called Lab Rat. And that's the color right there. You can see it. But I also have it in a brand new bait called the Shiver Glide here. And it's kind of like a soft plastic fluke style bait that George and I are thinking about stocking. So we said,
Oh, no. This Shiver Glide's not a new bait. We've been stocking them for a couple years.
oh, so we have been stocking
It's
this.
a new color.
But this is a new color. That's right. So there's the new color, and the new color. We have the Skinny Dipper in stock right now. It's kind of cool. It's got little pearlescent to the belly. You can't really see it, but it's got a pink kind of hue to it. It's got this pink hue in the belly, and it goes into like a muted gray back. But they're calling it Lab Rat. I love their names. They always come up with something good. So you're going to get a pack of those in the Lab Rat color, and you're going to get a pack of them in a new color they came out with called Electric Shad, which is almost like a smallmouth magic or something like that sort of color. So you're going to get a pack of those. You're going to get a pack of a brand new color from Bass Assassin in their swim bait, the 3.5 swim bait called Electric Shiner.
By the way, the little boss
Yeah,
is boss.
that is. It's a great little
I love
swim bait.
that. I love that little boss. I fish that little boss a lot just on a ball head.
Yeah.
And I also fish it as a trailer on a bladed jig.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, their colors are, that company gets overlooked anywheres outside of Florida.
Yeah.
Or if you're a speckled trout / redfish guy, you're big on them.
Yeah.
But once you get out of Florida, Bass Assassin gets overlooked in the bass world, and they shouldn't, because their colors are badass.
Yeah. Scott, hey, what do you say, Scott Goldsmith? He's on the plane watching us right now, Nick. He's going snook fishing, Charlotte Harbor.
That's hardcore.
Good luck, buddy. That's awesome, bro. Good to see you. So another thing we're giving away is the Spro CJ Smasher, that drop shot bait this year that nobody kind of really figured it out, but this thing is bad to the bone right here, man. This thing is stellar.
What's the C and CJ stand for?
The C?
The C and CJ.
CJ Smasher?
Well, what's the C stand
Chris
for?
Johnson.
And his brother, Chris and Corey.
Oh, Corey.
Yeah.
Chris and Corey.
I was pretty impressed that you got Chris right.
I got one right. 50, batting 50, 500.
I'm gonna give you two points on that.
And then we're going to give you one of the hottest baits in the whole damn world. That's the flatworm.
Flatworm's hot.
Flatworm's freaking smoking. Then we're going to give you a brand new color in Z-Man yellow in the TRD called Yellow Perch.
Can I tell you what I like to do with the flatworm when it's cold in the winter?
Put it on jig head.
Yeah, on a Ned head. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That works great. Yeah. I'm not going to have George chew on your baits because I think you got to have the guy who wins this wants all of his baits and he doesn't need George to be chewing.
No, I will not be chewing on anybody else's baits.
And then last but not least, because it's a time of the year, I wanted to give a jerk bait out that probably nobody would buy. However, George and we fished it last year, and it was responsible for some of the biggest fish we caught all year long,
and large numbers of them.
Yeah, and but really a big fish bait, and that's the Berkeley Stunner in the fire. I don't know what the hell they call this thing. Blaze. The blaze color in
that
a jerk bait.
That jerk bait was hot last year for us.
You get a little tiny stain in the water.
It worked in crystal clear water too.
Honest to God, these big fish, they ate this thing. So that's going to be the drawing. I'm going to get this together. I'll put it on Caitlin's desk. And
that right there is one of the best drawing packs we've had in as far as drawing packs.
It's awesome.
I'm getting in that drawing.
It's an awesome drawing. Now, how do you get this, Nick? So you want to like and share.
You want to like, comment, and share on this Tackle Shop Live.
On this episode.
That's right.
It's got to be this episode. What's cool about that is the people that are watching and that are on here, your guys are the ones winning this stuff. It doesn't go out to anybody else. This is for our audience.
That's it.
It's not doesn't go out anywhere else. It has to be done tonight.
Getting
you got
that drawing.
You got to do it tonight. And you guys will be.
So for Facebook, again, like, comment, and share. For YouTube, you got to subscribe and comment.
Subscribe and comment.
Subscribe, like, and comment.
Subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube, and like and share.
What about Instagram?
It's on Instagram.
We don't have this on Instagram.
This live show is only on. If you look right here, George, the live show is only on Facebook and YouTube.
Not TikTok.
Nope, they don't even know what's going on.
So what they're saying is,
well, they're on the wrong platform then.
You got a great opportunity. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's the odds are good for you guys winning. You just got to be able. You just got to do it. Just got to do it. So anybody watching the show, you guys are lucky because you get to win these tackle packs. We do it for our audience. We do it for you guys because we appreciate you stopping in every week, so faithful and watching the show.
I feel like we should be like around a campfire singing Kumbaya or something right now.
Paula Ziegler says Ted and Jeb say hi. All right. Ted, how you doing? Jeb, what's happening, buddy? Thanks for watching the show, man. Appreciate it. All right. So Matthew Singlerland, how you doing, man? Nice group of baits. Yep, you better believe it. Team No Fish, what's happening? Michael Caldwell. Yeah. Bill McDermott, how you doing, buddy? Johnny Kopp, what's going on? So love to see you guys. Appreciate it very much. Larry Shope, what do you say, bud? Fantastic. I'm glad everybody's clicking in here. That's great. You guys are all going to get in on the drawing. All righty. So that wraps up, I think, all of our announcements except for this one. Don't forget this weekend, For everybody getting in here, pay attention. This is the calm before the storm for George and I, because we have the online Black Friday sale starting on Saturday this weekend, and you're going to get a shot at some great buys on our early Black Friday sale. We're getting a jump on everybody, and plus it's going to free you guys up so that you guys can do some other shopping during the traditional Black Friday. But we wanted to get in early. We wanted you guys to get a jump on it. We have some great stuff that's going to be happening online. A 20% discount throughout the site. That's a great buy for everybody. And there is some exceptions, but they're listed there on the website. And then next week, the day after Thanksgiving, traditional Black Friday is our in-house sale, which is, quite frankly, if I'm close enough, I'm going to pass up on the online sale, and I'm coming here because we have some blowout stuff, and we also are doing some stuff that we're not allowed to advertise. So I can't do it online, but we're doing some stuff in the shop here that unadvertised.
And you know what, Mike? I always look at that stuff, and I know we can't talk about it on social media.
Yeah.
But if you're out there, you need to see it because it is awesome.
Yeah. It's great stuff. It's fantastic. It's all the stuff that you guys really want, but you never see it on sale because you're not allowed to advertise it. So I'm just going to tell you, you're going to want to be here. You're going to want to be here. You're going to want to take advantage of some of the great door busters, we're calling them, items in here. So if you're close, come on down. Friday and Saturday, 25th and 26th. Be here for that. It's going to be fun. And then you get to see George also.
Oh, I'll be here from opening till closing, signing autographs, making tackle recommendations,
signing autographs.
And
you got to see that line. It's going to be real short.
Well, you never know. You never know. You know, but
where's George at? Oh, he's over at the short line.
suffice it to say, you know, I'm going to be all about talking fishing and tweaking tackle for people for 2 days.
Yep. Yeah.
And you know,
it's gonna be fun.
I can't wait to see y'all.
It's gonna be a great time.
Can't wait to see y'all.
It's gonna be a great time. Okay, so let's get this show on the road. This is a section of the show that we love doing, and it's you know, it's all about the tackle. This is what we do. We love tackle. We love dealing with tackle. We call this tackle talk. Yeah, this is a tackle show. So every week we talk about some new products, some newer products, or some products that are relevant for this time of year. And we're going to get started away because we got a lot of things to talk about. What do you got first here for us, George?
Oh man, I'm telling you, I'm excited for another week. You know, and I was looking through my options and kind of trying to come up with a theme and what could I talk about. And I said, you know what? It's going to talk here. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is a Daiwa spinning reel. All right. Excuse me 1 second. Mike's going to grab me a pair of sunglasses. I want to show you too. The first thing I want to talk to you about is a Daiwa spinning reel. And Daiwa has started a construction technique several years ago on their high-end reels, on their Exist, on their Certate, called monocoque, which we've talked about on this show before with the ballistic MQ for short. So, you know, typically, you know, if you look at the ballistic MQ, if you look at the Kaje MQ, you know, typically those reels are, you know, pricey, you know, 200, over 200 and north, right? And now, this will be the 5th freshwater spinning reel in the monocoque body style. And it will be the Procyon MQ. Okay. So we have, the Procyon has been in the Daiwa lineup for many years, right? So they had the Procyon. They had a couple generations of that. Then they went to the LT, which stands for light and tough, which they took about 2 years and they carried that LT concept through their entire higher end spinning line. Not necessarily more expensive, but their higher end spinning line. The light and tough reels all share, some key componentry.
Big thing is they shaved off a lot of the frame wherever they could and still maintain the best amount of quality and durability and strength. But LT means they lightened it up. They lightened the frame up.
Yeah, they have, the LT reels have a few common points through them, such as Mike said. Now they're starting to bring the Mono Q MQ down. So, the Procyon series.
Why the Mono Q? What's up with that?
Monocoque.
Yeah, what's up with that? What's the deal about that?
I'm gonna bring that into focus here.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So the Procyon, the Procyon LT, then they went to a Procyon AL, the aluminum body Procyon. Now, at the same exact price, they're doing the Procyon MQ monocoque. And the big deal here is you have the Zion body, and the big deal with the MQ monocoque body, you don't have a traditional side plate. Okay, so if you look at your spinning reels, those of you who have done maintenance on your reels, you have to take a couple screws out to take the side plate off. Some of them get a little fancier than others. You have to take the rotor off to get to a screw or something. This is basically a big side plate that's kind of threaded into the body. Very rigid, very
makes it as one frame almost.
Very good alignment.
Yeah.
Right. The drive gear is bigger. Everything is just there's less chance for movement. So it's a really cool system.
Yeah, and one of the added benefits to that too, George, and they kind of tout it, is it's a lot more weather resistant.
It is.
It doesn't. You don't get that seepage in on the side plates like you do with traditional reels.
Yeah, you have less.
This it's not a sealed reel, but it's not. much more weather resistant.
It's not.
Keeps the dirt out better. Keeps all that kind of stuff out.
Most manufacturers are real resistant to use the word sealed.
Yeah.
We'll talk about water resistant, but they won't talk about.
You don't want to go there.
Air bail, which is a tubular bail wire, which, the bail wire is the Achilles heel of a spinning reel. They tend to get bent this way, which pushes outwards on these points here, which causes binding. No good. So there's much of solutions for that. Daiwa uses a lot of tubular air bail.
Mm-hmm.
Great drag, 22 pounds of drag.
Huge drag system.
And I've often criticized that whole drag number, as a selling point, and it is. But it's also a reference.
Right.
22 pounds of drag.
I say the bigger the drag, the more precise it is on the lower adjustments when you're down there around, that setting up for an 8-pound reel, and you need it to really catching those big, giant smalls. You need to slip a little better. I think you get a better adjustment when they make those big drags. Plus the materials they're using is a little better in the drag system.
A lot of these better spinning reels are now using carbon washers, which don't have a tendency to stick or chatter. I'm not saying that there's never any issues with a carbon washer. I'm just saying that material is very smooth and it's very unusual for you to have like a pulsation or a stick in a carbon washer. And if you have a higher end reel with a carbon washer and there's any of that pulsation in that drag or any that washer needs to be replaced. That was defective from the get-go. It's so rare.
Yeah.
No one's going to be able to say that, but So, anyways, $179.99.
Great price on that. Man,
Okay.
God, that's awesome.
We only stock it in the 2,500 and the 3,000. To be honest with you, those two sizes cover 95% of freshwater usage and probably about 60% of light inshore saltwater usage. And if you're from the Southeast, 100% of light saltwater usage. There are 4,000 size, which we don't stock. There is a 2,000, which we don't stock. These two sizes are the bread and butter. $179.99, 6.2 to 1 gear ratio.
It's beautiful.
6 stainless ball
Beautiful
bearings. They're not coated. They're not treated. They're not, they're not CRBBs.
Nope.
That's why the more expensive reels cost more, because the price of each bearing's higher, as one of the reasons, obviously. But they are 6 stainless bearings. So if you are, if you're a hardcore saltwater guy and you're buying this for, if you're a inshore flounder guy, or you travel down the south, or you live down the southeast and you're fishing trout and redfish, step it up to the next level and go to a CRBB or an ARB reel. You'll save money in the long run.
Yep.
34.5 inches per crank on the 25, 36.8 inches. Let's be specific on the 3,000. Okay, because Daiwa's 3,000 spool is a larger diameter spool, as you can see here. Okay, bigger diameter, better suited for fluorocarbon.
3,000.
The 3,000, but the 2,500 is also well suited for lighter fluorocarbon, such as 8. So there you go. Daiwa Procyon MQ.
Love it.
$179.99, available at sfttackle.com or here at the shop. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Mega Bass rods. Levante and Orochi XX. We all know there's been stock issues.
Yeah.
We all know they come in, they go out. Well, guess what? They came back in. So you might want to get on that program.
Yeah.
We got the key.
Once the masses start figuring out about it, they go quick.
I mean, I'll throw a square bill on that. I'll throw a trap on that. I mean, I'll jerkbait on that. I'll throw it's just so awesome of a rod. The flat side special. Their shaky head spinning rod it's a standard for me. So Mega Bass rods, Levante, Orochi. We got a shipment last week. We got a shipment this week. We are sitting pretty good. Another product alert, and these are kind of, I don't know why they're so hard to come by. When they're in stock, there's lots of them, but when they're out, whew, they out. Demiki vaults. It's getting cold. It's getting to be blade bait season in a good portion of this country. We're next week's show, we're going to do our early winter show. We're going to talk heavy on blade bait fishing. But suffice it to say that Demiki vaults in the top 3 to 5 of everybody's power rankings on the blade baits. They are back in stock. Man, when they're out of stock, they are out of stock. But the ship must have docked up because we got a pile of them in today. So
beautiful.
Demiki vaults are in. We did get a few of their Demiki 100 series crankbaits. I mean, we have a decent selection. That's another product that's really blows my mind why they just don't make more of them. But the 100s and the 300s are in decent condition also. So
Mhm.
we did get a Demiki shipment. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is, and this is, pay attention to this because this is going to have a lot of bearing in 2 weeks. I want to talk to you about the Jose Pro Series from Costa. Now, I know we don't have Costa on our website. It's just not something that works out for us. But we sell a lot of Costa here in the shop.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not the biggest stocking dealer, but we stock 28 different models of frames in anywheres up to 6 variations per model. Do the math. It's a fair number of glasses. But the Pro Series is pretty cool. And the Pro Series is 4 different frames. I wrote it down here. It's the Jose, the Reefton, the Fantail, and the Blackfin Pro. They also have the regular version. Pro Series is only glass lens. Pro Series has an adjustable nose piece, vented, very good at reducing fogging in those sweltery days. It has channels in the temple to carry sweat away from you. It has the ability of sweats pulling up in the bottom of your lens to drain out. It's got a great, and I wear them. That's why I'm talking about them. They're awesome. It's got a great, temple earpiece back here. It's a real grippy type of material. But the reason I'm bringing this up tonight is don't buy any Costa before 2 weeks because we're going to be doing a special Costa contest, which is to be announced. And I wanted to bring to focus the Jose Pro because I'm getting a lot of people asking me about Jose Pro, right? So, Jose Wahebe is who they're named after, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
The Spanish fly.
Spanish fly.
Right? So there you go. We will readdress this issue in 2 weeks, right?
Yep. Sure will. One of the other products I wanted to bring to light because I think there's a shortage of them everywhere, and we have a few left, and that is the Molex Glide Bait 178. Didn't really get a chance to talk much about this year, but this is Carl Jakobsen's baby. Whenever you see him throwing a big glide bait, this is what he's throwing. His swim bait, glide bait, style bait. And he throws it all the time. I mean, you've seen him throwing it in tournaments. We have, several colors in stock. It's on the website, but a quality bait, well thought out, great ideas with the big trebles. They have them on swivels, which are doing, it's a through bait construction, super strong. So they're in stock. Make sure you check those out. I know there's a bunch of swim bait guys that were looking for some of these, and I was going through, and I'm like, I remember guys asking about these, or talking about them some of the forums that I'm on, and so we got them.
There you go. Yeah, it's kind of glide bait season now too.
Yeah. What else you got new?
I think that's all I'm gonna that's all I'm gonna go with on Tackle Talk this week.
That's it.
Yeah, kind of short and sweet.
All right. Well, for everybody checking in, don't forget to like and share and comment on Facebook for this great raffle that we went over at the beginning of the show. For everybody coming in a little later, we're giving away a nice old pile of tackle. You can see it right here. Big old pile of tackle. It's got some stunners in it. You got to like, you got to share, and you got to comment on Facebook. You got to subscribe. You got to like, and you got to comment. Is that right, Nick?
So on Facebook, you're going to like, comment, and share. On YouTube, you're going to like, subscribe, and comment.
Okay, there you go.
Yep. All
righty, perfect. So I just wanted to bring it up for everybody here coming in. Hey, man, Steven Snyder, what do you say, brother? Been a while. Yeah, man, haven't seen you around. Thanks for stopping in. Matthew Weimer, yep. Also, seen some guys talking about, they're going fishing this weekend. They're going to be doing this weekend. What do you think we should be doing? Well, that's what we're going to get into right now, because we're going to be talking about some fall fishing right now.
Yeah.
So, as everybody knows, the last couple shows we started with early fall season fishing. Then we went into the mid fall season last week, and this week we want to get into that late fall time of year is where we're at right now, and that's the temperature of 40 to 50 degrees in your water temperature range. Yeah, it might be cold as hell. You might be going out and fishing 35-degree weather. Or 32-degree weather with the wind blowing 1,000 miles an hour and everything going on. But the river, the water temperatures will be in that 40 and 50 for a lot of the lakes and stuff around, and the rivers, the deeper parts of the river. And then when a cold front breaks, it warms up a little bit, and then you're right in that at 40 and 50 degrees again. Well into November and early December. So,
well, we are well into November.
Yeah, well into November and early December.
I'm just saying we're well into November.
Well, I remember December the 27th, 6 years ago, I was fishing 49-degree water temperature.
Yeah, we were fishing 49-degree water temperature on the 2nd of January this year.
Yeah. So,
and that's up here. This particular show is it has an interesting timing to it, because half the damn country is getting froze out right now. You know. Typically,
but it's typical. It's like a quick thing. It'll go down, right, and then like next week or the following week, it'll start warming up. You'll see 50s for a week or two, high 50s, maybe even busting into 60, and your river gets back to where it should be, right? You're gonna have these dips and valleys. That's what fall fishing is. That's why it's so awesome. It's so complex and so easy at the same time. It's complex to figure it out when it's cold fronts like this, but when it warms back up, it's freaking easy fishing, so it's a great time of the year. It's awesome.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys. There's people watching right now or listening. They're saying, guys, I'm already thinking about winterizing my boat.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with them.
Well, I was going to ask you, what's reasons not to now?
You should never winterize your boat. That's reason number one. I'm just saying, if you want to get down to that, I mean, winter fishing, which we're going to talk about on our next show, is phenomenal. Right now, it's fall. This is what we all year long, all you hear is, I can't wait for the fall. I can't wait for well, it's fall. Okay. You don't have to wait anymore. It's time to party right now. And there's different stages of fall.
Yeah.
Our weather's a little severe for the last few days. And, don't overreact. For those of you who live in this part of the world where we're from,
you get this.
Up north a little bit from here, that's a different story. But, this area that we live in is very representative of a large portion of the country. A good portion of, Tennessee out through to Oklahoma is very representative of here. When it's cold, it can feel like winter, and but you have to understand the big picture. When you get that, the cold fronts are more magnified, but when you get those milder and not necessarily very warm, but when you get those stable days, the fishing is phenomenal. These fish, it's like deer rutting, the whitetail buck. I saw a big buck last night standing on the side of a very busy highway, Route 30 highway, and he was just like, he looked like he was watching a tennis match, trying to figure out how to cross the street. And, he was just ready to say, whatever, I'm just going to roll the dice, because, he's got one thing on his mind. These fish, they're programmed to eat, because winter is coming and their opportunities to take in calories are getting to be more limited. And if I may, winter is not nearly as severe on fish as we used to believe or were brought up to believe. You know, the last few winters, I caught the vast majority of my fish in this part of the world in 8 feet of water or less. Okay. And last year I had a phenomenal day in 34th, 35. We posted a picture on our site of a 4-pounder in front of the graph pointing at the water temperature.
Yeah.
You know, and that was stable weather. Okay. So the key is it was stable weather. Now, had we been on that same exact area doing the same exact thing, you know, the day after the cold front comes through, you know, watch your cold fronts. You know, watch your weather channel, tune into Jim Cantori, look at your apps, look at your maps.
Jim Cantori.
You know, get a green board, practice the moves. You know, when that cold front comes through your area, right, you'll notice the barometer's dropping. You'll notice your wind directions are going to be east. They might have a little south to them. After that thing passes, you know, your barometer rises quickly, and the wind direction will always come back around, usually northwest, north. If it's a storm, northeast. But, you know, if it's a front coming through north to north, and it'll moderate from north as that front comes, that counter rotation, that wind. What's happening is, you know, in these cold temperatures of this late fall phase, the day or two after that cold front is more heightened in the negative. But the stable weather is more heightened in the positive. So, you know, don't think you can't go out there in 42-degree water with a crankbait and wreck them in, you know, relatively shallow water. So, you know, these little storm situations right here, they kind of throw a little negative in your head, but it's temporary.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody right away starts talking about winterizing boats and I'm going to winterize my boat. It's over now. It's, you know, you just got to take, like George said, just take a moment, sit back, chill, watch what's happening. By next week, trust me, it's going to be a totally different play. The fish are going to be jumping in the boat, and you're going to miss it because it's the best time of year to go fishing, to have those magical days where you're going to sit on one spot and catch 20 fish, you know, where you're going to go and you're going to catch a freaking 8-pounder. You know, you're going to catch 8-pounders again this time of year, just like you do in March, early March, on these lakes and tidal waters and rivers. You catch your biggest fish when they're just coming out of that. They're the first ones out of the winter, and they're the last ones going into the winter. And those fish are eating. They're eating big time, and you're going to miss it if you put your boat away. So don't put your boat away until you absolutely have to, or when your lures start bouncing, is like what we like to say.
Well, we'll talk about lures bouncing later.
Yeah.
Right now we're in the we're in the hot.
We're in it.
We're in the hot spot. We've been waiting for this. You know, and we're going to talk about some strategies. You know, the last 2 episodes, as Mike said, you know, the beginning of fall, which can be a tricky time, mid-fall, which is the sweet spot, late fall, which I think is phenomenal. You know, we talked about some key strategies. Obviously, you're not going to cover, you know, all the magic in a 20-30 minute segment, but you know, we want to talk about some key productive strategies, and I don't care where you go.
Yeah.
You know, now if you have the ability to travel a little bit, not far, but just a little bit from where you're at, you know, this time of the year is peak fishing time. You know, we're in the mid-Atlantic, you know, Northeast area. We got a little bit of a weather pattern right now that's kind of negative a little bit, but you don't have to go very far to where it's cracking. So, you know, if you got a day and a half to 3-day window where you can hook the boat up and get a couple of your buddies and go, you know, you're in the best of it right now. You know, and as Mike said, it's a great time to catch big fish. They are feeding. You know, they are A lot of what we have been conditioned to believe about cold weather fishing is simply not true.
Well, it's funny
It's simply not true.
this time of year, George, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you start catching fish, if you this is the time of year, if you're catching 12-inch fish, 13-inch fish, that's probably all you're going to catch in that area, because these big fish are they're aggressive. They're aggressive as hell. So those small fish just get the hell out of the way. So, this is the time of year you move on looking for those big fish. But once you start catching big fish, normally in that area, you're going to catch several big fish because they're packed up together. Those guys are hunting together. They're the big gang on the street, man. They're going out and they're kicking some ass. You know what I mean? So, that's what's so great about this time of year.
Wolf packs.
Those wolf packs, they do pack up. And normally when you start catching them in a wolf pack, they're all the same size. So if you're catching 12 inchers, you're catching 12 inchers, you're catching 2-pounders, you're usually in around that, might have a mixture of a 3-pounder or occasional 4. But when you're in 4-pounders, you're catching all 4-pounders. It's neat. And that's why you see these guys. I've seen one guy here say that they had the biggest stringer of the season was caught this weekend down the bay. And I'm telling you, those guys went out there and they found a little batch of them, and they probably caught them all within one area. And then also a funny thing was there was a championship tournament for a local club, and this guy had a limit of 12-inch fish. He went to another piece of water right at the end of the day, called every single one of them out with and ended up with 18 pounds.
Yeah.
So
that's what happens right now.
Yeah.
That's what happens right now.
You're looking for those big fish. You can go around and get them.
That first big bag you talked about, that was a tidal water, the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
So you got your you got your whole big Chesapeake Bay system. You got your Potomac River, and quite frankly, there's phenomenal tidal waters all over the country.
There is.
This time of the year, the fish are, and let's just talk about tidal water for a hot minute. The fish are shallow. They are feeding heavily. And you want to appeal to that with a moving bait.
Yeah.
You don't want to be finesse fishing. You don't want to be dinking around like that. You want to be, slow rolling a spinner bait.
Yep.
You want to be
chatterbaiting,
and you want to be cranking between a square bill
and a rattle trap
and a flat side.
And a flat side, yeah.
Cranking a flat side, cranking even a square bill, but when you start getting into them lower temperatures, flat-sided crankbaits work all the time, but they shine in cold water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that again. Flat-sided crankbait is a great choice at all times, but it shines in cold water. So it has its window of greatness.
Yeah.
Which is late fall through early spring.
Yeah.
Right? The rest of the year, it's a great choice for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it has its peak time when you're putting him up, lead off man or cleanup man in the rotation, and this this is something that I rate very highly. We're talking strategies here, and we're kind of segueing in off of this big limits being caught on tidal water right now. It's a shallow water fishery. The majority of those fish are going to be caught 5-6 foot of water max.
Yeah.
Now, there's not to be said, there's not deep fish. But so before you all wear out your keyboards telling me that there's all kinds of deep fish, I don't really care because I'm not fishing for them.
No.
I'm going shallow, right? I'm going to slow roll a spinnerbait. What kind of blades are going to be on my spinnerbait, Mike? You fish with me a lot.
Well, I mean, this is a time of year for, either
when I'm down there in that tidal water right now, trying to catch that 26-pound bag.
You got your big willows.
Negative.
You got your, What are you talking about?
What am I asked you what I'm going to be slow rolling.
Well, if you slow roll, you're going to be slow rolling Indiana blade.
Well, yeah, you know what I'm slow rolling, right?
Yeah, Indiana.
I thought you were going to just pop that off,
no,
man.
because,
you slow roll spinnerbaits together all the time.
I know, but, don't forget.
You disappoint me.
Well, okay, I'm just going to flat out say this. The largest bass that you ever caught down there in a tournament was not on an Indiana blade.
No.
That was on a willow leaf blade, and that was in November.
That was a big one too, wasn't it?
So that was a big willow leaf blade. So that's why I went there first, because he's been talking about that fish for 8 years now. Over and over.
It was
and
huge.
over and over again. It was
huge.
8.2. It was a giant.
Say that again.
8.4.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was 8.4. So
yeah, but I
but but you're right. I mean,
so
a famous.
I phrased that wrong
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so cold, windy,
Yeah.
overcast, slow roll.
Slow roll.
I mean, we're gonna be
Colorado, Indiana.
Me and Mike are gonna be Colorado, Indiana.
And we usually are throwing a hog collar.
Number 7 Indiana on the back, 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, white,
slow rolling,
white and chartreuse.
thumpity bumpity.
Just the way it is.
And then, as we talked last week, to Mike's point, in the willow category, the tandem shines well.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of times when I don't really care what spinnerbait you throw. Last week we talked about this, and we're going to repeat it because we're kind of segued into this situation. Listen, that tandem combination, is a shallow water, cold water, fall dream.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And for those of you who aren't really following things, tandem means the front blade is a Colorado, and the back blade is a willow. That's what a tandem is. I know most of you are aware of that, but for those of you who aren't, that's what, when we say tandem, we're talking Colorado willow.
Right.
And in a tidal water situation such as what we're talking about, Mike, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
White, chartreuse and white.
Yeah.
You don't have to get real fancy. Golden shiner.
Yeah.
It's all about that presentation, right?
So, even another bait that guys talk about and throw a lot that's similar to what George and I do is that's when the turtle blade comes into play. They're playing the turtle style blade. On some companies, they make that like in a Colorado turtle. That's a good one. So there's Colorado and Colorado combinations that you can use for this time of year, that if the water's a little bit more stained, and you need a little bit more thump, a little bit more vibration, just put that big Colorado on there and do that double Colorado, because that thing will rattle around real good. And then you mix in that chatterbait, that bladed jig in there at the same time, and that'll cover all that. But point is, these fish are eating giant baits. I'm telling you, you can't throw something big enough.
They are eating big.
They're eating what's there, and what's
getting
there.
The Big Mac.
What's there is, if there's a big shad, they're going to bypass those little ones. They're going to key in on those big shad now. They're feeding on the big perch down on the bay. If there's any white perch around that are still hanging there,
yellow perch.
They're feeding on yellow perch. They're feeding on the big shad that are migrating down the river. Man, those big shad, man, they're like this. This American shad that are coming down through there, they're like that. So they're feeding on big stuff. So
how many times do you catch those big late fall bass, especially if you're in a lake that is got gizzard shad?
Yeah.
And you catch that, you catch that nice, even a 3-pounder or 4-pounder, and you lip that bass, and you're like, damn, dog. I mean,
what the hell are you doing?
You just ate an 8-inch gizzard shad.
What the hell's the matter with you?
And now you're eating a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a glide bait.
Damn.
I mean,
those wings were fried up right.
I like it. I like it. I mean, this is the time of the year.
Crispy. They were extra crispy big time.
That's the time of year when you have to be thinking in those lines. Don't shortchange yourself. There's going to be that cold front situation, Mike.
Yeah.
Like I fished last weekend.
Yes. I'm talking.
I know you didn't. You had your blanket on the couch and all watching, you were probably watching Game of Thrones or some shit, but I was out there.
I was with my wife, and that's what I did. That's so I could go this weekend for 2 days.
Watching Games of Thrones.
There we go.
Yeah. Now,
anyways, let's not get sidetracked, Mike.
Listen to me.
Let's not get sidetracked.
Yeah. Well,
last week was, it was rugged. It was harsh, man. I went the wrong direction too. I went north.
Yeah.
And I should have went south.
So,
but my point is, last week we had to slow it down a little bit.
But last weekend is when on a Sunday was when that giant bag was caught.
Yeah,
that was the day you were out, and
it was the wrong way.
And it was where you were at was miserable because the water got miserable, but the temperatures were miserable down there. And this guy I'm telling you about that had limited 12-inch fish and ended up catching 18 pounds in the last hour.
Yeah,
he was down south too.
Yeah,
and throwing a giant spinnerbait.
Yeah,
So that's what, my point is that
I think there's a lesson to be learned here.
it was miserable.
I think there's a lesson
Sunday.
to be learned here.
Freezing freaking cold. The water temperatures have dropped 10 to 20 degrees, and they're still biting because they have to. They have to eat. They have to get ready for winter, and they know it's not winter. Those fish know it's not winter. They can tell by the time of the day. They know. They're like us. They know. They live in it. They know it's not winter yet. Winter, like Game of Thrones. Winter is not here yet. Winter is coming.
God.
Winter is coming, but not yet.
Happening.
I love that show, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm in season 6, episode 3, and let me tell you something.
Please don't talk about this show.
It's a great show. It's fun.
So I think there's a lesson to be learned. So let's rewind the clock a minute. Last weekend, made a bad decision, and I had it. In our region here, a lot of you are local viewers. We have a lot of people from out of the area, but for those of you who aren't from this area, we had a lot of rain for the first time in months. We had a front coming through. Cold front came through like Thursday night into Friday, Friday night into Saturday, and we had that big wind on the backside of it, 20, 30 mile an hour gusts, 35 mile an hour gusts.
Horrible.
And what happened was, and my point is, when you get that day this time of the year, weather it plays an impact. Don't make the mistakes that I made. Take the time to consult what's going on in your region and pick. So I fished a river, the Susquehanna. I went north. I got closer to the rising water, the rapidly rising dirty water, all the leaves and the grass being washed out. And it was basically, 85 to 90% unfishable. Whereas had I gone south, even if I wanted to fish a river, I gone south on a river,
not even that far,
not even that far, I had reservoirs that were dam influenced. I was going to have a more controlled rise, and I was going to be able to take advantage of all the good things that weather pattern.
Right.
Now, we did end up catching a lot of fish. We had to travel excessive distances to do it. Who wants to do that? But anyways, that's a lesson to be learned. But before you pick up the finesse, if you get that severe cold front and your only day to fish is Saturday and Friday night, the nastiest front in the world came through and that bite gets shut down on you before you go to the finesse, that's your only time this time of year. You should pick up that finesse. You need to be feeding them what they want. And we started off this conversation, Mike, segueing off of that talk about that big bag of fish on the Chesapeake Bay. And we talked about some shallow, some spinnerbait, some chatterbait. And then we got into a little bit of a topic that you and I wanted to talk about, which was some late fall cranking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we discussed the flat side.
Absolutely.
But you also alluded to
the rattle trap. Yeah, this is great time of year for rattle trap.
Primo, right?
Phenomenal. This is you guys that's been with us for a long period of time, since we started the show 2 years ago. You heard us talk about yo-yoing rattle trap, fishing a rattle trap this time of year, slow rolling a rattle trap,
worming a rattle trap.
A rattle trap. We talked about all this stuff for the last 2 years. This is the time of year we start to bring that up again. Right now, 40 to 50 degree water temperatures when this shines. That yo-yoing technique shines this time of year. The slow rolling worming that rattle trap down close to the bottom shines this time of year. So a lot of you guys are like, yeah, I know that. You guys told me that 2 years ago. I've been doing it when Jack and Fish on it. It's like I'm throwing it out there.
Well, listen,
and I'm yo-yoing that.
We're waiting for it. We've been waiting for it,
and we're finding those areas where those fish are coming in. You're like, oh, there they are. Boom, like that, man. You're in it.
So
and you're pounding them.
Yo-yo in the trap comes into our little cranking segment here. Worm in the trap. And by that we're referring to some of the shallower, let's say tidal waters or shallower flats.
Take care of Duke Nate.
Drops. The worm in the trap is cast it out, let it sink, and then kind of drag it, with the rod, not so much the reel, kind of drag it, let it fall.
Yeah.
Drag it, let it fall. It's a shallower, flatter technique. The yo-yoing seems to excel in a little bit deeper water, or a drop where a drop is involved, which is quite often a key element. When we talk about these fish being shallow, keep in mind, as we stressed last week, Mike, you need that drop nearby.
Absolutely.
Yes, we caught the majority of our fish last year in 8 foot and less in the winter, but that drop was right behind them. And we caught them on those days when they were more apt to move up, right? So that trap, yo-yoing technique, that cranking, we can talk about the baits, the colors, and the line, and the rods and the reels, but if you're not in the right area,
they're absolutely.
We have a problem.
They're absolutely moving towards their wintering holes, but they're still feeding shallow, because the bait is shallow.
Remember last week we talked about the pie-shaped wedge in the channels, right?
Yeah.
And we always go down this path. Pick an area where that channel. Let's say it's a creek channel. Let's say it's a creek channel off the main lake in a big bay, or a creek channel or a river channel on the main lake.
Yeah.
Where it comes in close to the shore, right? Just before that whole flat before that contact and that whole flat after that contact is where you want to be. Okay. Now, usually in the late fall, we're still dealing on reservoirs. We're still dealing with the creek mouths because the shad are now funneling back out.
Yeah.
A little farther south to us, they're still funneling in, but up here they're starting to funnel out. On a river, we're more concerned with something that deflects current. We need current, but we need something to deflect that current. And a lot of times we like to talk about where flats break off and ledges, right? That's a river thing, and those are the places where you want to crank, right? So what are you going to do, Mike? I'm going to look at I'm going to pick out a lake I'm on. I'm going to pick out where that channel swings in close to the bank. I'm going to run my boat down the lake. I'm going to have my map zoomed out. I'm going to see where that channel runs in close to the bank. I'm going to stop 500-600 yards before that. And I'm going to idle past that area and another 500 or 600 yards on the other side. And I'm going to be looking for bait. And if I can find bait in that area, I'm going to put the trolling motor down. I'm going to fish back through it. If there's current involved, and I think this is very important, I'm going to fish so that current and my bait are traveling in the same direction.
Yeah.
Okay. That may be contrary to the easy way.
Yeah.
But it is the important way, right?
Yeah.
So that's, the where. Now, Mike, in a river with current, the Susquehanna, the Potomac, any tidal river, what are we looking for in late fall? Water temperatures 40 to 50. Where do we crank? Where do we yo-yo?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're fishing, near the deeper, near where the wintering holes are. So creek channels, you're looking for that creek channel in that area. You're on the edge of that creek channel. You're fishing when it's sunny and the skies are warming and the day's warming. You're fishing up shallow, super shallow on the flat. And when the days are getting cooler, you're dropping off to that drop off, and you're fishing that actual drop off. On the rivers, you're fishing like the Susquehanna River. You're fishing ledges. You're fishing behind the ledges when the water's cold and the fish are
in the trough.
In the trough itself, you're fishing in the trough behind that when the water's cold or maybe earlier in the day. But don't forget the front sides of the ledges. Those big fish are smart. They like the fronts of the ledges, and they work off the pushes on the fronts of the ledges. So a push is water coming down, hitting something, and then getting kind of pushed off of that, and it's creating a buffer in there. Although the water's rolling over here into the next ravine, the front of that ledge is a little buffer. This is a little buffer zone. It may only be that far out in front of the rock or out far in the ledge. And then that's another area where you definitely want to cover, because it's a push. It's a place where bait's coming to the fish. And it's usually it's the smart ones. And usually the smart ones are your biggest fish. They're going to be parked in front of that. Now, if it gets ugly and the temperature drops that during that day, and it's starting to get darker in the evening, they might drop in behind it, and then you're going to have that nice little trough. The trough goes back, starts tailing up to the next ledge, and you'll have fish on the back of that, tail up in the back, sitting there on that push, or out in front of it where it starts to come up to that next ledge. They'll be down deep on the bottom, and you can catch them back on the back of the trough. So those fish will move back and forth in that trough with the daylight, and because the temperature is going up and down, and they get more aggressive at different spots, and you have to kind of fish all that during that day. So moving in and out. But in tidal water, it's all, for me, it would be all about the flats closest to that water, that deeper water. And and a lot of times that deeper water is colder water that's kind of getting filtered around those flats, filtered down those channels, and those flats are what's warming up, and that's where the bait goes. That's where the big bass are going to go to feed up. Making sense?
Yeah, I mean, as far as,
at least that's where I would take you.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter.
That's where I would take you.
Doesn't matter. As far as like that whole river concept, I'm really dialed in with what you're saying. On the free flowing portion of any river, or like on a tidal river where that tide's running, we can still have our push.
Absolutely.
We can still have
turn of the creek channel.
We can have a seawall, a break wall. We can have a deep dock. We can have a submerged piece of structure from the form of a sunken boat to a rock, a log. Those are all things that we look for to create that push. But the channel is everything. When you're on a tidal body of water, the location of the ditches, the location of the channel is everything. So,
and knowing where these fish winter. So history makes a big play here. If you know where these fish are going, then you can kind of see how they're going to get there, and you can start tracking down those fish on that path.
Yeah, if you're on an area like that, absolutely, I agree.
A fresh body of water, you don't know, so you're just you're going to have to figure it out, and it's hard.
And a lot of fish
It'd be real hard.
A lot of fish don't move that far.
They don't move that far.
A lot of fish don't move that far. You have a well-defined creek or river tributary on a tidal body of water. They live and die there. They're born and they die there.
Yeah, I know.
All within eyesight of where it went down.
Yeah, but in the middle of the winter, they're pulled into certain spots.
Tidal water fish in the winter loves to get into like a deep marina. They love to get into like almost like a shipping channel near a flat, but a marina that has a lot of riprap in it, where that sun can shine on that riprap. It doesn't have to be that deep, but it's off the current. When you go into a marina in a tidal body of water, there's the current eases out of there. Now, out at the mouth, there might be a pinch point where that current accelerates.
Yeah.
But the water goes up, the water goes down, but it's so open, it eases out. And the little bit of current that there is, there's 5,000 dock pilings for that fish to nose behind. There's There's break walls that to prevent any exterior wave action from coming in and disturbing the boats. You know, those deeper break walls that they can tuck in behind, and that's where they winter. That's where they're going. So, you know,
That's where they're going. Yeah.
The point is what Mike's saying is that's where they're going. So
work,
that kind of helps you.
You can work backwards from there.
You can work out from that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be real far from where they are.
No.
It's never going to be real far from where they are.
Listen, if you guys are going to a new body of water, you know, and you're like, oh man, I heard the fall bite down on such and such is just awesome. And you go down there, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle at least day one of your trip, because you got to figure out what phase they're in and where these wintering holes are and where do you think they are and where are these fish until you pattern that fish. It's a struggle. It's tough because you don't have that history. But if you come home and you're fishing all your bodies of water, you have history. You know where they're wintering at. You know where you caught them in the fall last year. You know where you caught them in the summer, and you know where they're going, so you can just follow that stuff. And then it's just presenting the baits. And I think that's where we got to go now is talk about some of these baits even a little bit further.
Well, guys, I had a question on the two baits you brought up. You brought up the rattle trap,
yeah,
and you brought up the flat side. Both those baits are flat.
Yeah.
Why is it this time of year baits like that work better than most other baits?
Well, it all started with the shad wrap. You know, the shad wrap's that cold water bait, and it puts out a certain, you know, it's not a big wobbly bait. It's a tight wobble.
It's like this.
It puts out a real tight vibration.
It's not like this.
And it's less aggressive.
It's got that movement, but it's tight.
We talked about aggressive, because you can get aggressive swim baits and non-aggressive swim baits. You can get aggressive jerk baits and non-aggressive jerk baits, you know, so you have aggressive for the faster warming up water. And then you have warm water stuff that you're going to use for the, you know, the real warm water. But then you have cold water stuff where listen, and I say this a lot, you know, fishing, don't complex it way crazy. Don't complex fishing way crazy. Just think about what's going on. You know, these are cold-blooded animals. So when it gets cold, they cool down. They don't move as much. So your bait fish, they're not out there going crazy. You know, they're not out there putting the old wiggle on, you know. They're like, man, this is, geez, this is bad. It's like the other day when it was raining. You know, you're all tensed up walking in like this, Nick. You got your coat up, man. You're like, son of a bitch, it's raining like hell. It's cold. And you're all tightened up because it's freezing out and it's raining. You don't want it getting down your neck, so you're scrunching all up. You're running in. You know, that's what these fish do. They don't move as quick in the cold water. They don't move that quick, you know. So these baits emulate that better.
That's why a flat-sided bait works so well when it's cold. You know, the late fall is about colder water temperatures,
tight wobbles, tight wiggles,
40 to 50 degrees. Yes, the square bill will work, and it will work wonderful. But on those less aggressive days, the flat side's going to get it for the win every time, you know, and that flat side has flat sides.
Yep.
Now, the lipless bait, obviously, it's also flat-sided, but it sinks.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different, it's still tight.
Yep.
But it's a whole different presentation. So, you know, flat side is, you know, fantastic for these colder temps, late fall through early spring. You know, and there's so many quality flat sides. You know, I love this Little John from Spro, circuit board lip Gamakatsu hooks. For the last year, I've been fishing this Macbeth flat from Shimano. Been having nothing but great success with it. And then, of course,
the Fritz side.
Yeah, last week we talked about the Click and Fritz side.
Yeah,
the Fritz side. I mean, there's so many
there's
of them.
a million of them.
The OG Slims.
Yep.
It just goes on and on and on. I think the key here is in these colder temps, you know, where to crank and what to crank. And, you know, another thing that'll help you guys out in the more open water, cold water cranking is to lighten up on that line a little bit. Now, obviously, depending on where you're at, you can't get too crazy here. But if you're in a more open water, and I'm not going to tell you to lighten up too much on a tidal water situation or a reservoir situation, but if you're in an open water, deeper water situation, or just an open water situation where it's mostly a rock form of cover, like Mike and I do a lot of our river fishing, we automatically go to a 10-pound line, fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
Because we're not really dealing with cover in the form of wood. We're dealing with rock. And, we're cranking. We want a little more depth out of the bait anyways. We're pretty open water. We may have a fish that drags us over a rock every now and again, but a good fluorocarbon is going to withstand that. And then we're trapping with our yo-yo technique, and we want that thinner line for that. Obviously, we're not going to do that in a cover situation, a late fall, cranking trees on flats or cranking boat docks. We're going to want a little more horsepower there, but if possible, right?
And then moving on from the crankbaits.
Next up, Mike, I have some notes here. This is a awesome time of the year for a compact jig. And I don't really consider a jig a finesse bait. I consider a jig a slower power bait, a slower power fishing technique. It's got that presence to it. I do like to compact down. Okay, if I'm river fishing for smallmouth and my water rises and gets dirty, like happened to us, the jig is a player. If I'm tidal water fishing or reservoir fishing in the shallower, 0 to 8 foot range, more than likely 5, 6, 8 to 8 foot.
Yeah, trees and rocks,
docks. And I like to downsize my jig. Will I fish a full-size jig? Will you fish a full-size jig? Absolutely. I like to downsize my jig. And, of course, on this show, you've heard me say it many, many times. I'm a big fan of a lot of brands of jigs, but I particularly love the Greenfish Tackle Itty Bitty. Trust me, I'm just telling you, I buy them off the wall. I mean, Greenfish has never gave me a free jig in my life. And I'm fine with that. I love this jig. This jig skips. This jig stands up. This jig has a great hook in it. I love to pair it with a couple different trailers this time of the year. I'm real big on the Max Scent little 3-inch chigger crawl. I'm a chunk guy at heart, but I really like that Max Scent when it gets a little colder. I like scent in general when it gets a little colder. I love that Max Scent on there, that little 3-inch chigger crawl. I found it to be.
What scents are you throwing there?
Scent?
What scents are you throwing?
When it gets cold, I do like scent. Most of the time, you can probably find hundreds of quotes on me saying scent doesn't matter except for when it's cold.
Yeah.
When it's cold, I like the Smelly Jelly and the Crawfish Anise. And lately, we've been playing with the bait fuel. Well, I should say Mike's been playing with the bait fuel.
That's legit stuff right there.
And a lot of people are liking this.
I don't know what the deal was with it because it doesn't smell like anything. But
I brought it up for eye candy, to be honest with you. But I know I've been fishing with Mike a lot. So I do like a scent product when I'm jigging or finesse fishing. I don't really consider the jig, quote unquote, finesse. I do like a compact jig in these colder months. I will fish a full-size jig, obviously. I also really, well, let's face it, we talk about the same jigs every time.
Yeah.
Itty bitty, right? The cross-eye power finesse jig from
that's a great
Z-Man.
little jig.
Phenomenal. Right? Now, my setup on the finesse style jig is pretty simple. I like a 7-foot to 7.2 medium heavy extra fast rod. Now, if you're fishing a medium heavy fast rod, that's cool. If you're fishing a heavy fast rod, that's cool. I like a medium heavy extra fast taper, 15 fluorocarbon, and I like to put this jig where this jig needs to go. You know, in the cover.
Yeah.
Wood, rock, dock.
Love it for rock fishing. You know,
Right?
I love it for fishing in the rocks. Love it.
So, you know, I had the jig on here, you know, and our conversation really scrolls into that jig nicely. You know, I brought up to you earlier that I was going to talk about that Max Scent, you know, little 3-inch jigger crawl. They eat the damn thing.
Mm.
They eat that Max Scent. You know, I'm usually a chunk guy. You'll find most of the time you'll find me zoom chunking it, variety of chunks. But on these finesse jigs and these cooler temps, I've had some issues. I've had some revelations. I had a revelation with that Max Scent, and I had a revelation with this Z-Man bait. It's called the Boar Hog. Okay? And then what I do is I cut it back. So that is my trailer. And I really like this when I'm catching a lot of fish because I don't have to fiddle with it all the time.
Yeah.
I can catch a ton of fish on this bait and not have to be replacing trailers all the time and not have to be fixing my jig all the time. You know, this thing fits these finesse jigs to a T. I cut them back. I take about 1.5 inches off of them, which puts that profile right there. And phenomenal. Seems like it works really well in the cooler water temps.
Great bait to throw.
And again, we're talking strategies, Mike. We're not talking every conceivable option that we deal with. We're just talking about some high percentage strategies.
Well, and the baits that you should be throwing, you know, that you don't have to have a whole box full of them, just a few of them. You know, we went through the crankbaits, we went through the jigs.
You need to have that jig title.
And I think to go along with that also is the tube over there. You know, guys fishing tubes. This is the time of year you might switch up to 2.5-inch tubes. Just scale it down a little bit.
That's little.
That thing right there, especially when you're on the bottom side of this range that we're talking about tonight,
or a cold front.
Yeah, 40 to 50 degrees, and you're down in that lower portion of it wherever you're at.
Remember, Mike,
you'll find that little bait right there, you get bites.
There's
you
time.
just get bites.
There's a time for finesse in this fall period, but remember what we said at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Only in dire circumstances.
Yeah. So on the beginning part of the cold front came in the night before you went out, you know, you're going on Saturday no matter what. And the front comes in Friday night and you're like, oh man. And you wake up in the morning, it's 30 degrees. You go out to the river, you're freezing. That's when you might scale down and fish the 2.5-inch tube. But the other thing we like to throw in that situation is
TRD.
You know, a TRD. That's a great one. And then a third one is just a Kitech swim bait. Now, you guys know we talk about this bait a lot. This thing is a tidal water. This is a lake. This is a river. This is a fish catching machine when that water's in that 40 to 50 degree range and you want to bounce the bottom and somewhat finesse fish. Now, that's a 4-inch bait, so I don't cut anything off it. I fish it just like that, and I fish it on a jig head. And then, you know, I used in a current situation, I let the current just roll it along real nice and easy. Now, when I'm fishing our river, we always fish a wire guard on ours, some kind of weedless head. George and I used various ones. We don't have a favorite one. We just use various ones. But you know, you bounce that thing real slow. When I'm in some of the lake situations, I'm using open hook, and I'll just kind of let it get down, and I'll just drag that thing and hop that thing real slow across the bottom. And anywhere. I mean, but there's the shad colors for your clear water conditions. You got your shad colors. I talk about these all the time. Your crystal green, your sexy shad, and your bluegill. That's your clear water. That's when that water's getting cold. What happens when water gets cold, George?
You know, the density changes.
The density changes. So this is the start.
It can't support the particles. But you know,
this is the start of that happening.
The bottom of this range is
the bottom of this range
right now, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
It's anything but clear.
Well, no, I know that, but you know, it clears off quickly because that sediment drops out of it. And then in the dirty water, we like to sun gill. That's it. That's all you need. It covers all the situations that you're going to get into, no matter where you go. You're going to get into that, but that's a finesse style bait. So that's your, you know, roll it on the bottom, let it roll, but that's on the bottom side of that temperature range more so than the upper side of that temperature range.
Question for you guys: with that little small tube, was it 2.5 inch?
Yeah.
What is your favorite jig head for that size tube?
We fish everything on a SFT weedless jig head. Everything. Now, guys are going to get all bent out of shape. It's got a 3.0 hook in it, and man, it's got an extra wire and all that stuff.
A hook looks good when it's hanging out of the mouth of a 20-inch smallmouth.
And we're going to get 300 more casting than you because all you're going to be doing is tearing shit off and retying. And
it's important to note, though, Nick, I do everything in my power not to fish that little tube or this TRD right here. It's a daily struggle. As we said in the beginning of the show, you know,
but that's it. But that's in the box, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As we said at the beginning of the show, you know, this late fall range, you know, we live for this. Mm-hmm. This is a power fisherman's dream come true.
What's the last thing we throw a ton of, George?
When it gets cold?
Right now. 40 to 50.
Thing we throw a ton of. Oh, my God. Probably one of the most favorite baits we throw. Jerkbait.
We saved the best for last, baby. We saved the best for last.
Yeah, and keep in mind, everybody, you know, a lot of people are programmed to fish what they catch or, you know, always do. Finesse. Nothing wrong with that. This is not the time of the year to go to that.
You do if you have to.
You may need to if you have to, but don't be picking that stuff up until it's proven to you that you have to. These fish are here to eat. Big fish can be targeted, and big fish can be caught with the techniques we're discussing here. Okay, that little TRD will catch big fish on a day when it's a bad day. Okay? There's a front. There's a negative attitude to those fish. They have a tiny strike zone. We're not going to beat that horse anymore. We're talking about strategies that we like in late fall. You know, we talked about cranking. We talked about that compact jig. That, to me, is not a finesse technique. That's a power technique. And now we're going to talk about this jerkbait.
Yeah, we talked cranking, you know, the rattle trap and the flat side. And I'm telling you, the jerkbait is probably the most powerful bait that you can throw right now, at least for smallmouth. And that can be anywhere. That's a lake, that's a river, that's a stream, that's whatever, you know, wherever you throw it. But one of your most powerful baits that you will throw in the 40s to 50s is a jerkbait, hands down.
It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. The jerkbait is pretty much a year-round bait, but
it shines, really shines
right now.
You know, the only
I would be remiss, I guess. I would make sure I throw a jerkbait every single time I fish. I would try to put together that jerkbait pattern. Now, you know,
that means switching colors. That means switching your depths. That means switching your colors.
You know, if you're in a you know, a dingier water, a tidal water situation, you know, a little bit shallower water, you know, you're going to want to go to a different color, you know, a little bit of a bigger profile, something that doesn't have the deeper lip on it. You know, if you're in a clear water, you know, river, you know, smallmouth, or a clear water lake, if you're up, you know, fishing clear water lakes that are known for their smallmouth, you're going to want to go a little deeper, you know, to get down into that 9 to 11 foot range.
Yeah, and a lot of companies are making them now. The +1 series is in the mega bass, the +2s in the mega bass,
everyone is making
the pluses and all of the different ones, and that's just your bigger lips, you know, your deeper divers. You know, that's I had a hard time switching in those. Took me when they first came out, you know, it took me a bit to switch to them, but once I finally made, you know, the switch and I started catching fish on them and I've started fishing them the way that that I felt they needed to be fished. Man, it's unbelievable.
Depends
Unbelievable
where
what they
you're
do.
at. I mean,
It's unbelievable.
depends the depth. It depends the depth of water you're in.
Well, I mean, one day you're catching them up on that flat, like you said, the water's right and warm and everything. And then the next day you go back to that flat, but you're there first thing in the morning. And you just didn't, when you figured it out, it was in the afternoon and you went back to that spot and you went up shallow. All of a sudden you're not catching them. You come back out to that drop where that lip is, and you're throwing that shallow jerk bait and they're just not coming up for it. You can switch to that deeper diving one. And I know Nick's done it 100 times where he fishes. He switches to that deep diving lip and bam, all of a sudden you start catching fish. That's the power of that.
That +1 of the mega bass has really changed my whole game with early spring fishing this time of year. It's very overlooked.
It is.
And you got to take advantage of anything that's overlooked right now.
Yeah.
And probably shouldn't be telling people this, but it's overlooked. You got to put it in your arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah, guys will go like crazy throwing that same jerkbait that they catch them on all the time, run a whole giant bank, and a guy comes behind them just out a little bit with a deep diving one, and he's just picking them off, right behind them.
There's no secret that a jerkbait's one of your best baits for the live scope.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do is if you see fish, throw that shallow one once, and you'll see that you're 4 or 5 feet above those fish.
Yeah.
And you'll see they're not coming up.
Right.
All right. Now throw that deeper one. Now you're right where they are.
Right in their face.
They can't help but eat it.
Yeah.
And then hey, I gave my best shot. But without that, even that forward view, you wouldn't be able to see that. But
yeah,
it's a great
that's what you're doing.
Deal.
That's what you're doing. You're presenting a bait that they wouldn't hit. It's a jerk bait, but they wouldn't hit it because they're not going to run up for it. But you put it down where they're at and get in front of them, then you're going to catch fish on them. So it's it's important to do that. And the movement of fish just during the day, we'll have shallow lip baits on our rods and deep diving baits on our rods at all times. So we just and we always have four jerk baits rigged up, that we can switch around. And then color. I mean, color.
I think it's important to know the depth of your baits.
Yeah.
You could probably, most of the people that you fish with probably don't know how deep their baits run. I mean, very few people know how deep their baits run. I think it's very important to know, what the baits that you fish with run, and realize that different pound test of line can alter that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been spending a lot of time looking at forward scope. I've spent a ton of time for years and years and years jerkbait fishing. I kind of know how deep my baits run, but on forward scope, I really know how deep my baits run because I'm looking at the bait. Okay. And the deal with jerkbait fishing, which kind of falls in line with a lot of things on suspended fish. Because remember, we were always taught, like we started this show off talking about cold water. We were always taught how tough the fishing is. Wrong. We were always taught how hard it is to catch suspended fish. Wrong.
Yeah.
Turns out they're really easy to catch, especially if you can see them and you keep your bait right above their heads. Knowing the depth of your jerk baits, key. Or if you're not seeing fish and you're working the same exact areas that you're working with these other baits, you want to know the depth that you're fishing in.
Mm-hmm.
You want to stay your jerk bait at or above that slightly, right?
Yeah.
So
go ahead. Well,
know the depths of your jerk baits.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I want to add to that is cadence. Mess with your cadence. Jerk, pause, jerk, pause. That's the cadence. How long is the pause? Work on that pause, and mess around with that pause because in colder waters, that pause may be really long. It may be really short. It just changes. You don't know what it's going to be. You got to mess with that all day long. Mess with your cadences. Watch how the fish react to your bait. Are they hitting on the very last hook? Are they just kind of getting it with the last hook? make some adjustments with your cadence and see if they take it better. Make some color adjustments.
That's going to be a color
Well,
adjustment.
sometimes it is, and sometimes it's a cadence
Yeah,
thing.
it's primarily going to be a color adjustment.
Sometimes it's a cadence adjustment.
I'm not totally disagreeing with you. I'm just
I know.
saying
I'm just
most
saying.
of the time it's going to be a color change.
I think most of the time it's a cadence adjustment on a jerkbait.
Really?
On a jerkbait.
Oh,
Honestly, do.
that's cool.
I honestly think that you get that cadence right. You're gonna they'll suck it in. They'll suck that bait in if you get that cadence right, because it's more natural reaction for that day.
I've seen days where, when my dad and I would fish together and the jerkbait bite, if we would get that one fish on a jerkbait, some days it was our worst nightmare, because all of a sudden we start going down the bank so fast and we weren't catching anything. Then you have a guy that's out there and he's just twitch, letting it sit. And you're looking at him laughing like he ain't ever going to catch anything. Next thing you know, they're loaded up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what the hell? We were fishing way too fast.
So cadence is so important.
It really is.
And it's super hard to do.
I agree. Both are so important. I've seen color changes matter, but cadence has screwed me so many times or helped me so many times.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And then along with that, like George said, line size, if you have we jerkbait a lot with 12-pound test, but if you're finding yourself fishing a lot of your fish that you're seeing on your scope or you're seeing on your graph are maybe just a fuzz hair deeper, you can't get to it, just going to a 10-pound test will make it happen. And I know guys up on Racetown Lake that are even going to 8-pound tests to get their baits down even deeper yet, and have success with 8-pound tests. I don't like 8-pound tests. 10 is my maximum low usually, but
I think it really depends on your situation, the depth you're in, the type of cover you're around. It's like, goes back to that cranking conversation. I'm going to crank open water. I'm going to yo-yo a trap and open water on 10. If the water's pretty open, I'm not around cover, I'm jerkbaiting on 10-pound fluorocarbon, like 99.9% of the time. Now, if I get into a shallow water situation where I need to make that bait run shallower, I'll absolutely go. The other thing I'll do in warmer weather jerkbait fishing to shallow that bait up, I'll go to mono. I'll go to mono in a heartbeat. You go from a 10 fluoro to a 12 mono, and you took as much as 3-4 foot off your bait. The other thing you can do in shallow water, or if you don't want to change your line and you're in a little bit of shallower water or the fish need to be a little shallower, is pop your rod tip up. And you can adjust your depth that way. You can take some depth off the bait that way. But one thing I want to talk about for the late fall period, for the 40 to 50 degree water temperature period, for the cold, maybe the cold front scenario, maybe the not as aggressive fish, but you can, what I like to do, call force feed them. I want to talk about a jerkbait that I keep in my box that I fish hardly ever except for this time of the year. I may fish it in an early springtime situation when it's real cold, but I fish it a ton this time of the year. And I catch a lot of big fish on this bait. It's a junior Mega Bass 110, okay? I don't often fish any jerkbait under a regular 110 size. But when it gets cold, or if the fish are lethargic, or if the weather pattern backs them off, or if the big fish need to be tempted, this is my finesse bait. Vision 110 +1. And that bad boy is lethal. 10-pound fluorocarbon. It's deadly. It's freaking deadly.
Great choice, George.
It's deadly. I mean, like I said, from spring through now, I hardly ever even tie one on. I mean, rare. But from now until winter, I don't take one off.
Yeah.
And, it's that legendary Mega Bass performance in a downsized package, but it's +1. It's +1. So I'm actually able to get 9 and 10 foot of depth out of this little bait.
Mhm.
Now that's on an extremely long cast. On a typical, typical cast, you're going to lose a little bit of that depth. And it's awesome. So that's my secret weapon for late fall. You'll notice, Mike, last time we talked, you and I didn't talk about this bait.
No.
We reserved it.
Yeah. Well, I think we started to touch on some of that because Corbin and I went fishing 2 weeks ago, and of course, I went through my jerk baits and I did all my Vision 110s. I did my Pointer 100s, and I caught a couple of fish on those. And he busted out that small 200 Strike King, and just that size change, that size of that bait change. I don't know. It was the thing that's going on. So size, cadence, color, and depth is all the things you have to talk about. I mean, that's kind of complex, but I guess our point is when you go out jerkbaiting, just don't do the same thing all the time. Don't just throw the same, Rapala, X-Wrap, number 10 in white, and they didn't eat that, so they're not on a jerkbait today. You got to kind of expand out to maybe an olive color, maybe a hot steel like everybody loves. I can't stand it, but everybody loves it. Maybe even go to the prize package color.
Well, color on baits is a show I want to do later this winter, but I have a very specific guideline for choosing jerkbait color. Sky condition combined with water condition. Clear sky, sunny day, clear water. I want a transparent, translucent, see-through bait. That's when this bad boy shines, or something like it. I can see through it. A ghost minnow.
That's a famous color. Ghost anything.
Anything you can see through, like this particular color here.
Ito Wagasaki.
I want something that's not real opaque, not putting out a big silhouette. Now, let's take that same exact water and let's bring in a heavy overcast day. Now I want that opaqueness. I want a chartreuse shad. I want maybe a hit of chartreuse. I might want a chartreuse belly.
Mm-hmm.
Or a chartreuse tail,
or just a straight white,
or I may want that gnarly deal over there, that blaze. Now, give me some dirty water, dingy, because jerkbaiting in dirty water
doesn't work.
No go. That's when you just know not to use it.
Dingy is like.
How do I know when not to use a jerkbait when it's muddy?
Yeah, so a dingy for you guys is a little bit more than a foot, 18 inches kind of visibility. It still can be stained, but you can see 18 inches to 24 inches is what we call dingy. Clear
it's
water.
It's not real dirty.
It's not dirty.
It's just dingy.
But it could have that brown hue to it. A little bit of brown kind of dingy hue to it. Just a little bit.
And a good way to start on that, Mike, is the same exact bait you fish on a cloudy day.
Yeah, the chartreuse shad for George and I is like a go-to player for us.
Or your favorite
black and gold is a
clown.
Killer. A clown is a great one.
What about your favorite hot steel?
Hot steel is a great one for guys.
That blaze.
That
blaze is interesting.
I'm telling you, man.
Blaze works really well in clear water on a cloudy day, and it also works really well in dingy water. More so with smallmouth.
This in dingy water is bad freaking to the bone. I'm telling you, it's a big fish catching. And that's the thing, I'm a jerkbait nut. Everybody knows that I have, George and I both are. We have 4 boxes of jerkbaits. And I mean, there's it's so bad that you can hardly get the latches closed. And when you pick one out, it's like, and you finally get one. You know what I mean? And it's just like a pain in the butt. But we love our jerk baits, and we got to have a lot of color. But I thought I was bad until I saw Corbin Gottwalt's jerk bait selection. He is out of control, that boy. But I've seen it play. I've seen it play certain days, man. He just can yank out of color, and man, I got a feeling about this. I think I need to do this, and he does it, and it works, you know. And so, colors like anything. You got 500 pounds of plastic in your boat for worms, and they're all different colors, and you got 300 crankbaits, and they're all different colors, and you got 400 jerk baits, and they're all different colors. Color does play. I don't care, you know, how you look at it, but you don't need to have 300 colors. I mean, there is a few colors. If you come into the shop like this, you're going to get directed in the right direction. At your local tackle shop, he's going to direct you in the right direction for those few colors that work really good in your area. And if you stick with those few colors, ghost minnow, chartreuse shad, you know, like a Ito Wagasagi, and maybe something like something wild, something wild, you know, you're going to be fine. You're going to figure it out. You're going to catch fish on those baits. It's not going to be a problem. But there's days where you wish you would have had this, you wish you would have had that, because that guy, because, you know, he flat out stoned him with, he came in with 60 and you came in with 20. 20's not bad, but that guy whacked 60 fish because he made the bait change. He went to that Vision 110 Junior and made that bait change, knowing that he needed to do that. He went to that flat-sided crankbait and had that right color and made that change with that perfect scenario, and he whacked him on that perfect, that one color. So it's just something that you got to kind of experiment with over time, and you'll get it. But don't complex it. Don't make it crazy. Start out with your local area. Go to talk to somebody that really knows what they're talking about, and get those 4 or 5 baits. And in the crankbaits, those 4 or 5 baits, and the jerk baits, there's 1 or 2 tubes, there's 1 or 2 Ned rigs, and 1 or 2 swim baits, and you're going to be fine. You're going to do fine.
And that's why these shows are so cool, because, you know, for a lot of people out there, they would never try these things unless, you know, you give them the idea, like, hey, you know, you got to expand your arsenal a little bit to have more opportunities, and these baits are all the deal.
Well, there's a lot of guys, you know, that I've seen commenting here, even, that would say, oh man, finesse fishing, you know. No. That's the last thing you think of this time of year. You're power fishing. You're trying to find these big fish. You're trying to figure out where they're at. You're covering water, and you cannot do it with a finesse bait. Yes, you will throw finesse baits this time of year, but it has to be proven first. So George made that point. You got to prove it to yourself that you have to switch to finesse baits, because I'm telling you, like that guy, perfect. I mean, it was a great conversation. He was like, man, I was catching the fish here and catching the fish there, and I had 4 in my live well. I had an hour and a half to go. I put my spinnerbait on, and I just went to work, and I made one little move to a certain area that I like this time of year, and I caught 18 pounds in an hour and won the freaking tournament. And he won his championship for the year on top of that. So that was on a spinnerbait. Now, he could have just been to the point where, oh, man, it's going to need one more bite. I just need one more bite. You know, get me a Ned. Hey, where's my Ned rig? You know what I mean? Give me the Ned rig. And he could have done that and settled for getting that 5th fish, another 12-incher, and came in with 7 pounds, 8 pounds, and not won the championship, and ended up in third place. He could have done that, but he knew that those big fish are somewhere, and it did warm up a little bit, and I need to go back to some of that stuff where that warming trend was, and started power fishing that spinnerbait to cover a lot of water, and he just hit a spot, man, and just loaded up. Now, some of it, how much was that luck? A little bit. And like I always say, I'd rather be lucky than good any day of the week. But he knew to make that switch, and he knew to look for a certain type of a cover, and just had that feeling, and he went and did it with a power bait, and he freaking whacked him. And it was horrible on Sunday, Nick. 15-degree water temperature drop. freaking wind blowing 30 miles an hour. So you can't tell me it's a finesse thing. That's your last case scenario from 40 degrees to 50-degree water temperature. You are power fishing. Doesn't just mean you're fishing fast. It means you're fishing the proper big baits. Hey, George?
Absolutely. And fishing them correctly, as we've been discussing. I think on this jerkbait topic, I think the colors are very important. The tackle's very important. The line's very important. But the way you fish the bait is the most important thing of all. Most of the time, if you're not fishing that bait correctly, you're not catching fish in this. When it's warm out, you can be the worst jerkbait fisherman in the world and you're going to catch fish. When it's in this phase right here, that jerkbait needs to do what that jerkbait was made to do. And a jerkbait has got to pop and pop. Not be ripped through the water 5-6 feet, but a couple inches, might even kick like that. It might kick like that. You can finesse your pop. You can twitch it a little lighter and just get it to. But the key is, to move it. Boom, boom. Not like this. Okay, and that is not going to work. That bait has got to, to do that short, erratic, and picture that bait popping, sitting there. It might slowly sink, it might slowly rise. You can adjust that to your conditions, but you've got to get that action out of it, and that's all done with the rod. And what I always tell people, the best way to learn it, I spent a lot of years on a boat with customers in a jerkbait scenario, really frustrated because the fish were biting and I couldn't get that message across. And, I finally figured out the way to get that message across. Point your rod tip at the water, pick a spot. Keep your eyes on that spot. Pop the rod and let it come right back to that spot. So here I am pointing my rod at the water. Pop right back. Everything's in front of me. Pop right back. Okay, I didn't go from here to here. Okay, I didn't take a 6.5 to 7 foot rod and move it, 4 feet. Pop right back to my spot. So pick a spot, point your rod tip at that spot, out in front of your boat a little bit. Pop it, come back. Let the slack in your line. Pop it, come back. Okay, pick that slack up a little bit. Pop it, depending on this whole cadence thing, right? But boop, boop, right? Leave that slack in your line.
Slack is so important.
Critical.
No
slack?
The slack, I mean, not even half. It's like 1/3 the bites.
No slack, no fish.
No fish. The slack, what the slack does for you guys, why it's so important is, where's that jerkbait?
Try not to stick it in your hand.
No, I haven't done that before. So like George says, the slack line, when you jerk it, allows it to kick and maybe kick like this. Now, what a lot of guys do, and what George's frustration is when they get to this point, they reel up their slack. Now they wait. All right. So now they're going to jerk it again. They're going to get the movement, and then they're going to pull it straight again. And it's just going to sit there. It's just going to sit there. Tight line to your rod. It's just going to sit there. So a slack line allows you to pull it, and it ends right here. And then it does this with the currents, with the wind. It moves, it straightens up, it comes back around maybe, and then you're back to, and you're getting that crazy snap because you have that line getting like that. And then when the slack line's there, it levels out. You get that secondary movement on the pause. And this is where the fish bite it. So in a current situation like a river, that thing's going down the river and it's all the little rocks are putting off little vibrations. This thing's just going along as it's going down the river. I'm a little fishy. I'm swimming down the river. Boom, and that's when they're going to grab it. Tight line, it comes down like this. There's no subtle, natural movement. Right, George? Natural movement.
Well, the other thing is, making sure when you work that bait, you only move it a couple inches at a time.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying
you gotta have the slack.
The slack gives you natural movement from natural in your house type of stuff. Like that there's a draft coming out of this thing, and there's always something fluttering over there in a draft. That's normal. That's natural. If you didn't have a draft over there and someone was fluttering, you'd be like, oh shit, the house is haunted. But so it's a natural thing. This is natural. When it goes there and it starts to straighten up and it's moving, and it kicks a little bit, and it's going like this and it's moving. That's when they eat it. So when George and I say, slack line means no fish, or tight line means no fish, slack lines mean fish, that's what we're talking about. You're going to catch a lot more fish because of the natural movements trick those fish. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, all you're doing is you're tricking fish to bite your lure. That's what fishing is. You're tricking them into biting. And the more natural you can make it, the better you can trick them. And the more fish you're going to catch. And it's never more important than it is with a jerkbait. Never more important.
Yeah, so that's our late fall wrap up.
Yeah, so
I
hope you guys learned a bunch from that.
Cranking.
Yep.
The compact jig, the jerkbait, and then worst case scenario, finessing.
Yep.
You got to catch them even on the bad days.
You got to catch them. So, keep that 2.5-inch tube handy. Keep that Ned rig handy. Yes, you're going to use them, but don't start with them and don't end with them. Just want to remind everybody who's on here right now, in case you didn't see, we're giving away a beautiful tackle pack right here. A lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff we went over at the beginning of the show. You can rewatch it and see what we're giving away. But you have to, on Facebook, you need to like, share, and comment. And on YouTube, you need to subscribe, share, and like. And those three things will get you in, and the same three things on Facebook will get you in, and you're going to win it. And it's only between you guys. There's nobody else going to be able to do this, and you have to do it tonight while we're on the air, right, Nick?
Right. I mean, this is your chance.
Gotta do it right now.
Hey, Nick.
Gotta do it right now.
Yeah.
Did you see what they caught at Cayuga Lake?
I did not.
The New York Department of Environment is doing some studies up there, and they're working on lake sturgeon. And they caught a 154-pound, 77.6-inch lake sturgeon.
Yeah.
And,
God.
Put it in their tank.
Jeez.
Put it in their tank and put their little radio tracker or whatever they do, on this big dog. And so the lake sturgeon population in Cayuga is alive and well, and they got them up to 154 pounds that we know of.
Jeez.
I did not know that. Now, did they say how old they think it is? Or
they probably did. It was a really long, boring article, like most of these scientific articles are. And I was just hitting the Cliff Notes version of it.
Nick, you ever eat caviar, Nick?
No. That's what that is, right?
Yeah.
Eggs.
Yeah.
Well, it comes from a lot of different fish, but sturgeon, white sturgeon is where the beluga caviar.
I did not know that there was sturgeon in Cayuga.
I think they're pretty much everywhere in those lakes in New York.
Yeah.
There's also a thriving population on the Marshy Hope River off the Nanticoke River down in the Delmarva Peninsula region.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The other thing, Nick, Derek Zimmel owns a company, True North Polygraph. And since 2009, he's actually a police officer who has expertise in polygraph work. And since 2009, he has been involved with various fishing organizations, primarily in the walleye circuit, doing polygraphs, and it wasn't really, he didn't even fish. He just has expertise in polygraph. And well, his business is thriving right now. Those numbnuts out there in Cleveland at that tournament that we all saw,
They made him a popular
they
man.
made him a popular man. You know, now Johnny Morris hired him for the $1 million tournament he did to celebrate his company's turning whatever years old it turned over. And
Luke passed it, and
well, yeah. So this guy is Derek Zimmel, True North Polygraph, and he is one busy SOB.
So you're talking about being at the right spot at the right time. There you go.
I'd like to know if he ever caught anybody.
He did.
He
He
did.
had one. He had one failure, and it was in that
Circuit.
It was in that $1 million Bass Pro tournament, and it was a co-angler who was part of the team, right?
Right.
They had the two-man teams,
Yeah.
and this dadgum co-angler did not pass the test, and he was disqualified. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he did anything wrong. He just didn't pass the polygraph test. And they said, if you're super nervous and like anxious and ready to stroke out, that's not going to affect the polygraph.
How's that possible?
I don't
get
know.
it.
I don't know how that
Now I
works.
got to ask you guys something. You guys fished a lot of tournaments. Have you ever been in a polygraph test with the tournament?
No, I
No,
never
but
was.
I've administered the voice stress analysis.
Yeah, we heard about that. I always thought they were bullshit.
I used to administer the voice stress analysis for Dave
Because
Kilby.
you never hear about anybody saying, "Oh, this guy." You know, that's the first time I ever heard it.
Right.
You never hear anybody say, "Oh, this guy failed the test."
Look, Duke met Derek Zimmel of True North Polygraph firsthand because he did well in that tournament.
Right.
They strapped him up and said, "You one of them unsavory looking characters. Let me hook a couple of these here stickers up on you and we're going to get some measurements." Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And the last little bombshell I have for you, Nick, is we've been talking on and off about the menhaden and omega protein. Remember we talked about how they cut that net loose? They don't give a flying
Rat's ass.
about nothing. They're out to rape, pillage, and destroy. And they have been battling Virginia because Virginia, not Maryland, Virginia wants to introduce a bill into their house to ban menhaden fishing on the lower Chesapeake Bay, the Virginia waters, for 2 years because their biologists have determined that the population's crashing. And then, of course, that is the linchpin of the food chain and everything's going to tumble with it. Maryland, of course, they ain't doing a damn thing about it. And you thought the story was done? No, I'm just getting started. Check this out. The Atlantic States Marine Fishery Committee, the ASMFC. And for those of you still on here, please listen. And you know what? Raise some hell. Offshore in the ocean at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. Now, Virginia wants to close the bay to Omega, right outside of the ocean. They just passed the catch rate of menhaden. They raised it by 20%. So, this is a prime situation of lobbyists
Getting their money, their hands
getting
greased.
paid.
Getting their hands greased.
Lobbyists getting paid. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that logic.
So,
Yep.
anyways,
So, George,
those are my hot hand grenades of the
hot
week.
buttons.
Good stuff, George.
Nick and George, don't forget this weekend, Okay, guys, here it is. This weekend is our online sale, 20% off most everything in our online store. Great buys. We weren't able to do it for the last couple years. We wanted to do it again. We wanted to do it right. 20% off for you guys. You can take advantage of that on most of the stuff in the store.
That's online.
That's online,
not in store.
And then on November 25th and 26th, which is our in-house sale, we're going to have an unbelievable sale for you. And there's unbelievable blowouts. There's unbelievable products that are going to be blowed out. There's stuff that we're not allowed to talk about that's going to be on sale. You need to come here to take advantage of it. You don't want to miss out on that sale. This is a really big sale for you guys. Definitely want to come here for that. And then on Cyber Monday, we will have a Cyber Monday kind of cleanup sale online only. You definitely can. People who couldn't take advantage of it can go back and take advantage of it for Cyber Monday, and that'll be a great sale as well.
No show next week. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your families.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving.
Wind her up, Mike, and let's roll.
Spend some time with your family. Know what it's all about. Be thankful. And we will see you in 2 weeks for the next show. And thank you so much for stopping by and watching Tackle Shop Live.
A sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down, knowing I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you.